They imagine General Order 3 carried out by Union General Gordon Granger, and they see it as federal overreach, as some sort of DEI or affirmative action program gone all wrong. They imagine it as Southern comfort and convenience trampled upon, when it is instead the uncomfortable and inconvenient work of meeting ingrained institutional and systematic racism head on, with the same force that it chose to oppress and impress itself upon. Make no mistake about it, Juneteenth is just as much a part of the great American tapestry as any other thread. Veterans Day honors those who proudly serve our country, and African Americans serve in the military at a rate almost twice their proportion to the overall U.S. population. Officially allowed to enlist after Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, African Americans have not only fought for their own personal freedoms, but have continually enlisted themselves to secure the freedoms of people many times unjustly denied to them. Labor Day rightly recognizes the contribution of American workers to America's strength and prosperity. Who then can deny the economic impact of the melanated and the enslaved who work from sunup to sundown? 244 years of uncompensated free labor, who were born into a system for which there was no legal escape. Who can count out the people whose agrarian savvy produced over 2 billion pounds of cotton by the 1860s? Their forced labor contributed to $3.5 million of net worth, $100 million in today's money for the people of the South alone. And we won't even mention what they meant to antebellum Wall Street. My point is clear, and that there is an inextricable, undeniable link between what some try to dichotomize and separate as the African American and a separate American experience. When we are willfully ignorant of and consciously stupid regarding our shared experiences behind the veneer of anti-wokeness, our self-induced hibernation threatens any notion of a United States. America, please wake up. America's Civil War serves as the most definitive moral conflict in this nation's history. And if Europe had to atone and never forget for the atrocities of the Holocaust, then why should America so easily forget slavery? Why should it so easily forget Jim Crow? Why should it so easily dismiss the civil rights era? America had to grapple with, and in many ways still wrestles with, whether or not the explicit promises made on the paper we call a Constitution were ever meant for everybody who lives within the borders. I am mindful that the Emancipation Proclamation isn't entirely altruistic, that the Republican president's position was clear at the time. If I could save the Union without freeing the slaves, I would. If I could save the Union by freeing all the slaves, I would. If I could save the Union by freeing some and leaving others alone, then I would do that as well. And yet Juneteenth celebrates the fact that the proclamation was more than just lip service, that the war for our nation's soul wasn't completely in vain. The events surrounding Juneteenth, at least the reason for a celebration, suggests that America knew that she needed to change, and that she was willing to go through the pains necessary in order to gain a republic that human history had never seen before. Sometimes, many times, change hurts, and sometimes it has to hurt before it heals. People have to get off the sidelines and get into the struggle for equality and equity before we heal. People have got to sacrifice the comfort of their own conveniences before we heal. People have got to truly live, meaning that they're also willing to die for righteous principle if we are to heal. People have to be moved to move toward the interests of others, even in the face of seeming lesser privilege for themselves before we heal. In addition, Juneteenth represents the deepest respect and homage to the American spirit of independence and freedom. Independence and freedom. The right to self-determination without hindrance or impediment. It's not the idea that you're giving me boots for my bootstraps, but instead you won't make it near impossible through legal loopholes and physical intimidation and social coercion for me to make, borrow, or buy my own boots. That you won't lynch me for exercising my right to vote. That you won't burn down my communities once they become self-sufficient and successful. That you won't redline my neighborhoods through federal housing policy in order to cheapen their value. That you won't attempt to lock the doors of opportunity on me, only to then vilify me for knocking a hole through the door. Black Lives Matter never meant that only Black lives matter. It never meant that Black lives mattered more than anyone else's. But it meant that a Black life mattered just as much as everyone else's life did. That our life, our liberty, our pursuit of happiness mattered just as much as someone else's did. That our freedom from both tyranny and bondage mattered just as much as someone else's did. And as a side note, it wouldn't even have to be said if everybody recognized it as a universal truth. If the lives of the unborn matter, and they do, then so do the lives of Black men, Black women, and Black children. If the lives of white women and white men matter, and they do, then so do the lives of Black men, Black women, and Black children. If the lives of the LGBTQIA community matter, and they do, then so do the lives of Black men, Black women, and children. If the lives of Ukrainians, Palestinians, and Israelis matter abroad, then so do the lives of Black men, Black women, and children right here at home. But finally, Juneteenth reminds us that the work isn't done until the work is done. You have to continue to stand up for basic human rights until the work is done. We have to continue to stand up and make this country be everything they said it was going to be on paper until the work is done. Until the work is done, we have to make sure our children are educated the same way everybody else's is. Because if you look at it, there's still a gulf between what is Martin King's 1963 dream and the present day reality. Today, African American women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth, and infant mortality is 3 times as high as everyone else's. Today, Black unemployment is at least double the unemployment of their white counterparts. Today, African American people earn 60% of what their white counterparts earn for the same jobs in the same places, working the same amount of time. We lead in incarceration rates and dropout rates and teen pregnancy. And before you begin to think that this is only a product of poor choices, that this is only the product of the lapse in morality, before you begin to think that it is only the idea that it is all their fault, and if they did better, they could do better, let me remind you of the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, then it's probably not true. We have to put our hands together and join together to help people understand that we only can make it if we run this race together. Juneteenth allows us to know that we can make it together if we make the hard choices to be everything God called us to be. And so I say to you, Juneteenth is in fact everything that America says it should be. And if it is not, then I don't know what America is supposed to be. America should, America must celebrate and recognize Juneteenth, because if we lose sight of what Juneteenth means, then it's possible that we will lose sight of what it means to be America.